mentioning how common mass shootings are in the U.S. Biden is pleading for Congress to pass gun safety laws.
Over the last year since Uvalde, our country has experienced a staggering 650 mass shootings.
He says he believes the country needs to ban AR-15 firearms.
It's been 1 year since the shooter killed 19 students and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School here in Uvalde, Texas. Now, a year later, the community is trying to balance the fight to keep alive the memories of those who died and the desire to move forward.
What do I want people to know about Uvalde? Well, I love Uvalde. I love my hometown. I love my people. I love my community. We're not Uvalde strong.
When you come to Uvalde, it's impossible not to see the rallying cry, Uvalde Strong. Crosses, signs, and wreaths line the town square of this place 15,000 people call home.
Where Uvalde divided, families here that were not involved in May 24th, tell the families, get over it. Stuff like that happens. Well, how do you get over something like that? 77 minutes. These children, only they and God knows what they went through those 77 minutes.
The leader of this small church off the main strip in Uvalde is angry. He's angry that a year after the tragedy, families are still begging for answers as to why a gunman was able to kill 19 children and 2 teachers without action for over an hour.
What will bring healing is when the families get answers.
But answers and closure have been hard to come by. So Abel Ortiz, a local artist, took a different path to bring some light into the darkness.
We call them the healing murals of Uvalde because that was the original idea. Art heals. Art persuades the heart.
Ortiz spearheaded the project, helping recruit dozens of artists from around the state to immortalize the students' smiles in paintings that are larger than life.
And here we have Ellie.
Eliana Ellie Garcia was about to turn 10 the week she was killed.
Ellie is represented as like in a baseball card format.
Sports card.
Sports
right?
card, because she won the championship that week before the tragedy. The uncles, the aunts, the grandfather, the grandmother, the parents, the sisters, they all painted flowers. She loved duckies. She was a cheerleader. She loved sports. And again, she was really a child of faith. That's why I called her Jesus' all-star.
Lives were robbed here. But for Ortiz, these murals are how the town begins to change the narrative, healing through art and turning tragedy to triumph.
And some people have got concerns about being defined by the tragedy, but it's not the tragedy that defines us, it's how we respond to the tragedy that's going to define us.
I've just been through a lot in my life.
Robert Lewis is a recipient of SNAP benefits, the federal program formerly called food stamps. He depends on them to cover his food basics.
Basically, I don't eat that much, but I have to have my peanut butter and stuff like that.
But the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program could be at risk if the debt ceiling decision isn't resolved by June 1st. As part of the negotiations, Republicans want to expand the rules regarding current work requirements for recipients.
We should pull back money that's been wasted. We should help people get jobs by having work requirements. We've seen that work time and again.
The GOP has proposed that the current work requirements to get aid be raised to age 55, as well as tightening other state exceptions. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says the work requirement change must be part of any deal, while the White House is less clear. Another way program recipients could be affected if debt limit agreement isn't reached is food benefits could be delayed.
Your SNAP balance is...
Democrats argue that some SNAP benefit recipients are already struggling as COVID public health emergency rules tighten, in some cases causing disbursement delays. In Colorado, a State Department of Health spokesman told Scripps News Denver the end to that program is causing workload challenges nationwide.
They said they're behind 30 to 45 days. I wasn't even able to pay my rent because I had to make a decision whether or not my kids were going to eat. And so now I'm facing eviction because I had to use my rent money to feed my children.
A tough choice that could be made even more difficult if the debt ceiling impasse isn't solved soon. Kat Sandoval, Scripps News.
For young people experiencing homelessness, art is becoming an outlet to help them get through life.
It is not always easy to quantify the impacts of the abstract.
We are going to write or draw about a time you felt confident.
Art instructor Katie Makishin knows that well.
A lot of us created plaster casts of our faces.
She also knows the paint and latex her students are working with will fade someday, which is why her goal is to leave a more lasting impression.
So it's good that the kids can learn how, you can fail 7 times, but you just have to succeed 8.
I met Katie on a recent Wednesday afternoon inside Project Create, located in one of Washington, D.C.'s most impoverished neighborhoods. This nonprofit has become a place of refuge for young people, many of whom are experiencing homeless insecurity.
Most of our students are very regular,
but all of them have now found a permanent home in art.
Use this as a base and then think of what other colors to add.
I'll be able to show my parents what I've been doing all this time.
Including 11-year-old Askia Turnipseed.
And I saw these colors on a Native Americans and thought that was cool.
Putting the finishing touches on this latex mask for an upcoming art show students are hosting.
Are you proud of what you've been doing?
Mm-hmm. Very proud.
What makes you proud of what you've been working on?
What makes me proud is all the hard work I put into it.
The kids that come here, I think, feel very much like this is a home away from home.
As Project Create's executive director, Christy Walser, says many classes also double as therapy for kids and their families.
It's not just about the art. There's things going on below the surface.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think, the kids feel like they're being creative and having fun and making art, but they're actually addressing an undercurrent of feelings and emotions and things. Some of them are very difficult.
Every year, an estimated 4.2 million youth and young adults experience homelessness in the U.S. Most experts, though, believe that number is undercounted because of how hard it can be to contact homeless youth.
For those who have experienced homelessness or are experiencing homelessness, this brings what to them?
I think a sense of place, a sense of stability, a sense of continuity.
Coming from the community that we come from, a lot of times you're battling a lot. You're battling the temptations.
The belief here is that giving kids like Ahmad Woodard an outlet to grow their talents will help them find their way, no matter where they call home.
Art has done everything for me, and it still is doing everything for me.
Keep you going? Keep you out of trouble?
Keep me out of trouble. Art is like air to me.
Make it super duper pink.
As for that class Katie Makishin runs, it lasts for 11 weeks. Attendance can often fluctuate.
We're just going to tap, tap, tap.
Which is just part of life here.
At this age, a lot of guardians like to give their kids some more choices. So sometimes they might choose not to come.
At the end of the day, though, it's the beauty in the art these kids are creating. She wants them to remember.
Figuring that out as a form of expression, they might want to continue outside of class.
Chris Conti, Scripps News, Washington.
Side hustles or side gigs were once thought of as a way to make extra money or get ahead. But more often these days, side hustles are needed to make ends meet. That's according to a new side hustle survey from Bankrate.com.
I mean, it's admirable that people are putting in the extra time and effort, but I would have hoped that more people were either getting ahead in the sense of saving more, investing, paying down debt, things like that, or pursuing a passion project. But in most cases, people say they just need this money to meet their day-to-day expenses.
Bankrate's Ted Rossman tells us 39% of adults now have a side hustle. 44% of those workers believe they'll always need one. A spring poll from the Washington Post found most workers would prefer 4 10-hour days instead of the 5-day work week. In the poll, 75% of people would choose the longer days, but most would not be willing to sacrifice pay in return.
Netflix is starting to charge for password sharing in the U.S. If you have the standard or premium plan, it's going to cost you an additional $8 a month to let someone who doesn't live in the same home with you use your account. That's $2 less than it would cost to buy the company's basic plan. Netflix isn't providing details on how it confirms subscriber identities or accounts, but it says everyone in the same household will still be able to stream at home or when they're out.
Welcome to the hump, everybody, and today could be a bit rocky for some. Those areas shaded in green, including Billings, also Miles City right on the fringe there, down in Cody, also Livingston, Roundup. A chance where we get into the heat of the afternoon, and some of it's going to get quite warm, especially off to our east where we could be flirting with the 90s. That leads to that instability. So these areas shaded in green this afternoon into the evening, we could have strong winds, at least small hail possible. We could definitely see frequent lightning, and if these storms could be slow moving at times, could dump a lot of rainfall on some areas. So definitely could be a rocky day for some, including Livingston and Cody. Your highs getting into the mid 70s. You'll have that marginal risk. Miles City, very warm today. You're just on the fringe of the possible severe storms later today. Sheridan, your high today of 81 with showers and thunderstorms. Marginal risk for severe weather here today through this evening in the Magic City.
It's not just cars. Lawnmowers and leaf blowers are also going electric these days. It's the hottest trend in lawn care. But there are some things to know before you trade in your gas-powered tools. Dirk Martyr has owned an outdoor power equipment store for 2 decades.
That's your ground speed.
But he's never seen a trend like this happen so quickly.
That's your mower with sound.
Many customers now want electric mowers and trimmers, even chainsaws.
Small subdivision, tree pruning.
And companies are cranking out lithium tools in response, from popular brands like Stihl, DeWalt, Cub Cadet, and Craftsman, to newcomers like Ego.
With more and more smaller yards, people don't want to mess with gas. They don't want to mess with oil. They don't want to pull a cord.
Tyler Graham is co-founder of the site The Lawn Review. He says at higher price points, battery technology is performing as well, or even outperforming some gas-powered equipment.
If you buy the most expensive electric, it's going to be better than its gas equivalent.
Tyler recommends a couple of key words. First, brushless motor, which he says is more efficient.
Just giving you longer run times, more powerful cuts.
Also look for an advertised run time somewhere in the 50 to 60 minute range. And lastly, a battery charge time. Know how long the battery needs to get juiced. Of course, electric won't be for everyone. If you have several acres, one battery won't be enough.
If you have a half acre or less, you're not going to run into an issue where you run out of battery.
Something else to keep in mind. Some states and cities like California and Washington, D.C. are phasing out new purchases of gas-powered equipment to cut back on air and noise pollution. So next time you need a mower or leaf blower, consider electric.
You just take it off the shelf, put a battery in and go.
And that way you don't waste your money. I'm John Matteries.
Anniversary reignites debate over gun laws.
As the nation remembers the tragedy in Uvalde, we'll take a look at what's happened for gun laws in Montana since then.
In Montana, we do not tolerate gun control.
Plus, inside a disturbing wildlife encounter at Yellowstone National Park.
At first I was, angry again of human going in and messing with wildlife.
This one ultimately leading to the death of a newborn bison. We'll hear from visitors who saw it unfold.
The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Andrea Lutz. We'll get to those stories in just a minute, but first we start on the weather front as severe weather and heavy rainfall greeted many areas throughout the region.
In fact, several areas saw an inch or more of rain. Take a look at these photos as hail pummeled lame deer, damaging several cars in that area, and the heavy rain flooding fields from Bridger to Belfry.
All of that causing a flash flood warning in Yellowstone County, while Custer County saw severe thunderstorms. Those storms carrying heavy rain will continue to be a topic for at least another week.
But again, some big hail in the lame deer area. We heard from two residents who described what they saw tonight.
It just sounded loud, and we came outside and it was this huge, like little hails at first, but then it got like bigger and bigger. So it was just loud, and all the cars were pretty much smashed.
Across the street, their back window was missing. A couple of houses down the road, they were parking south, and so their side windows were out. Their passenger window and the driver's side windows, they were busted out. So I could just imagine how they feel too. So.
Here are some of the pictures you've been sharing with us from around the lame deer area. You can see the coins compared to the size of the hailstones there. How about that? Some of the hail falling throughout the evening, especially in that localized area. We've got reports of smaller hail in quite a few other areas. Here you can get a clear idea of exactly the kind of damage that some of the storms could do and the amount of hail that also accumulated out of those storms. But that wasn't the only situation. We had flash flood warnings here in Billings, and then also you can see this starting to develop in Custer County, where we have ongoing this evening still some very heavy rain across the eastern plains, especially for Custer County. All of the blue flickers showing you where we have lightning strikes, some very heavy rain to go along with that. So we do have a flash flood warning into effect for that area around Miles City until midnight tonight. You can see the heavy rain in the surrounding area as well. A lot more weather to talk about. That's coming up in just a few minutes from now.
Today marks 1 year since a gunman entered a classroom in Uvalde, Texas, killing 19 children and 2 adults.
That tragedy is still fresh for much of the nation and in many cases reignited calls for gun control. But what legislation, if any, has been brought forth here in Montana?
With that answer, here's our Phil Van Pelt.
Bring up guns in Montana, and you're likely to get some strong opinions. It's a divisive topic, even more so now on the 1-year anniversary of the Uvalde school shooting. 1 year ago today, the lives of 21 families were forever changed. A gunman entered Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and murdered 19 children and 2 teachers. That tragedy is once again reigniting America's seemingly never-ending debate over semi-automatic rifles and gun violence.
It can be a volatile issue. We obviously are a state where guns are part of our culture.
Shani Henry is a co-lead for Moms Demand Action for the state of Montana, a group founded in the days after the mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary, and now leading the charge for what they call sensible gun control.
We are 26 times more likely than any other civilized nation to die by gun violence. 26 times.
But here in Montana, attempts to change gun laws have been futile.
Any significant legislation regarding firearm violence is shut down largely by Republicans.
Only one bill was introduced during the last legislative session related to any kind of gun control.
That bill was killed immediately in the first committee it came to because it's just not suitable for Montana.
Gary Marbut is the president of the Montana Shooting Sports Association and says Montanans have zero interest in any laws that limit gun control.
Those people are in the political minority in Montana, and that's one of the reasons we have constitutional rights in America, is to prevent the political minority from preying on everybody else with their dreamy ideas about utopia and how they're going to control everybody.
According to data from the CDC, Montana ranked 8th in the nation for gun-related deaths from 2017 to 2021. 83% of those deaths were suicide.
If you subtract suicides from gun deaths, and you subtract the gun deaths in a few urban areas in America where it's done commonly over drugs and gang-related turf, then America has a very low amount of gun violence.
And it's viewpoints like Marbut's and Henry's that highlight the divide in this country. One reason that little has changed in terms of gun laws in the wake of the tragedy at Uvalde 1 year ago. In Billings, Phil Van Pelt, MTN News.
A popular Bozeman sushi restaurant closed since April following the death of 2 people and sickening 50 others will reopen. Dave's Sushi says they hope to get a final approval from the health department and reopen by the end of the week. Owners say they're confident in their ability to safely reopen to the community and get their staff of 90 people back to work. They also say those who died from that foodborne illness outbreak connected to the restaurant will remain in their hearts and not be forgotten.
The first of School District 2's graduation ceremony is taking place tonight, this one at the Lincoln Center Auditorium.
As David J. reports, family and friends come together to celebrate the accomplishments of students who took advantage of a second chance.
About 270 students completed the adult education program this year, with about 130 going through the ceremony. And for all of them, they've overcome challenges to get to graduation. The class of 2023 enters the auditorium for commencement. Some had dropped out of high school before returning to complete their educations.
I personally struggled with addiction myself. I was addicted to heavier drugs for roughly 2.5 years. I finally decided in 2021 to get sober. And once I did that, I kind of wanted to jumpstart my career and get myself back into living a good life.
Young families, so it's for teen moms. Basically, I started going there when I was just a few weeks pregnant. Like, I had just found out, and then I went there my whole freshman year, and then I ended up dropping out my sophomore year.
And through adversity, they studied and achieved.
It's very empowering. It makes me feel whole. It makes me feel like a woman, grown. I don't know how to really put it into words, but the growth feels very amazing.
It honestly feels awesome to just be finally done. Like, you know, it was a lot of work, but I did it and did it for my son.
Many of our students are coming in and they've had a variety of challenges in their life, and they've overcome them. They've you know, their resiliency skills, they've persisted, they've set goals for themselves, and here they are. They've completed their high set and they're moving on.
Love your neighbor and love God.
Retired Yellowstone County District Judge Russell Fagg told the graduates they live in the best nation and advised them to keep dreaming. And whether or not they gave a speech, they left their classmates with good messages.
Strive for better for yourself and for those around you, and just keep pushing until you get there.
Even if you don't think you can, there's so many resources, like, you really can do it.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
Governor Greg Gianforte signed 2 bills into law this week that bring some changes to the state's recreational marijuana program. The moratorium on new recreational sellers is being extended 2 years through 2025. Licensing fees for providers that operate multiple dispensaries are also being increased significantly. Meanwhile, restrictions are being loosened on those restrictions for marijuana licenses that were guaranteed to Montana tribes. Supporters say coordinating language tying the 2 bills together also allows several providers who had been medical only to enter the recreational market.
This photo of a bison generating a big buzz in Yellowstone National Park.
For the second time in recent memory, park rangers euthanized a baby bison calf after human interference.
And tonight, park police search for more information about what happened. MTN's Jackie Coffin talks to witnesses who saw it all unfold.
It's a magical time of year to visit Yellowstone's Lamar Valley. I was just there last week watching bison herds with their calves migrating across the river. And with visitors flocking to this area, it can sadly lead to conflicts between human and wildlife.
A picture is worth 1,000 words. In this picture, taken in Yellowstone's Lamar Valley, tells a troubling story.
And somebody had made a comment that they saw a man pull the calf out, thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was saving this calf.
Carrie Paulson and Pam Strickland are seasoned park visitors. Both were visiting the park separately on Saturday when they stumbled upon a scene they never hoped to see.
The ranger was there. They were trying to reunite the calf with the mother. We didn't see the mother when we were there at all.
They explain this man, who still hasn't been publicly identified, saw a bison calf struggling in the river as its herd was crossing and tried to help it out of the river. But then the calf was displaying troubling behavior.
Then we noticed the bison calf, the red dog, surrounded by, I don't know, probably 6 people or so who were taking pictures with it and petting it. It was going up to cars.
Strickland says park rangers arrived and tried to haze the animal back into the herd, but the herd was too far gone, leading rangers to euthanize the calf.
At first I was, angry again of human going in and messing with wildlife.
This event is similar to a 2016 incident when a tourist put a bison calf in his car thinking it looked cold. Rangers had to kill that one too.
It's a thing that happens way too often.
Many are now criticizing the park, wondering why the calf couldn't be saved and taken to an animal sanctuary. The park now receiving so many questions, they've created a webpage to respond, explaining federal and state regulations prohibit the transport of bison unless those bison are going to meat processing or scientific research facilities.
There is a lot of fear around brucellosis.
A difficult decision and a scene both women will remember for years to come.
I don't think that there's anything the Park Service could have done differently at all.
In Yellowstone, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
Well, still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, a story of strength and survival. A Wyoming teen who barely survived a serious accident returns to St. Vincent Healthcare to thank all those who saved her life.
And in sports, throwing strikes at age 83, a longtime softball coach still sharing his love for the game will meet our Athlete of the Week in just a bit.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this.
A tragic car accident in Sheridan, Wyoming 7 months ago landed a 15-year-old girl here fighting for her life. On Wednesday, she walked back into St. V's to thank those who saved her.
Walking, talking, laughing. Those are all the things that Emily Morgan wasn't sure she would do again after she and her friends were involved in a one-vehicle rollover accident in October 2022.
Yes, she shouldn't have lived. And she is not only alive, but thriving.
Emily suffered from a multitude of injuries, including a traumatic brain injury. She was flown to St. Vincent Healthcare, where she underwent surgery to remove part of her skull.
Yeah, she was severely injured, and there was great concern about what her outcome would be.
After 9 weeks in the pediatric unit, another surgery was done to repair her skull. She was then transferred to a rehab clinic in Colorado.
Where are you going to be working?
Now she's back at the place that saved her life, a reunion filled with many tears and laughter.
They're so excited and happy to see me, and I'm like, okay, hi, nice to meet you.